Hello and welcome to Tubonge Tax. I am your host, Alan Madoka, and this episode is assisted by Sandra Rose, who is our sign language interpreter. Now, in today's episode, we'll be touching on the Voluntary Tax Disclosure Programme, otherwise known as VTDP. Now, to guide us through what exactly this is and how it affects you and how you can benefit from it is Ms. Linda Kanyari. Linda is from the Policy and Tax Advisory Division, which is part of the Domestic Taxes Department of Kenya Revenue Authority. Thank you so much for joining us, Linda, today on Tubonge Tax.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, let's get right into it. What is VTDP, or the Voluntary Tax Disclosure Programme?
So, as you've rightly put it, it's a voluntary tax disclosure. That means that any tax liability that a taxpayer has that they've not disclosed to the commissioner, they can now come forth and disclose this tax voluntarily. So, KRA has opened up an avenue for the taxpayer to do their own self assessment, look back at the tax that was not paid over a 5-year period. That is from 1st of July 2015 to 30th of June 2020. And if there's any tax that the taxpayer did not disclose to the commissioner, then this is the opportunity for them to come forth and disclose this tax.
And touching on that, Linda, maybe who is eligible for this particular program?
Good question, Alan. So VTDP looks at a taxpayer who's not under audit. So if, for instance, the commissioner has already picked up that issue for audit, then the person doesn't qualify.
Right.
If the person has been earmarked for investigation and that particular tax has been identified, then it's not, it's not new tax that you're coming to disclose. So for that purpose, you're also not, you don't qualify. And also, if you have a case in court, so you're a party to an ongoing litigation, then you don't qualify to apply for the Voluntary Tax Disclosure Programme.
Okay, that's very interesting to note, so that people know whether they're in or out, basically, for this particular program. Now, another question that may arise from taxpayers is, what are the benefits of this program and why are we talking about it here?
True, this is a rare opportunity for the taxpayer. It's an opportunity that the government through KRA has presented so that the taxpayer can come forth voluntarily. By disclosing this tax, they gain remission, or what we'd call the waiver of the penalties and the interest on this tax. Remember, we've said that the tax is for a 5-year period, and that means then it has accumulated penalties and interest. So the program started 1st of January 2021, last year.
Right.
It's running for 3 years until 31st of December next year, 2023. And so the benefit is 100% remission on the penalty and interest for those who disclosed this tax and paid it in 2021. But all hope is not lost.
Right.
We're in 2022, and the taxpayer qualifies for 50% remission on the penalties and the interest. So if they come forth now and they disclose and they make payment, then the interest and penalty that has accumulated, then they get 50% waived. So they'll only get to pay the principal tax and 50%. So this is also a call, because if they wait for 2023, then it means then the benefit is at 25%. That means then the interest and the penalty that will have accumulated, you only get to get 25% of it waived, and you'll pay 100% of the principal tax and 75% of the interest and the penalties. So my advice would be, this is the time to take it up before 2022 comes to an end.
Right.
And there's also confidentiality that is guaranteed to the taxpayer. So they can come forth and make this disclosure, knowing that there's confidentiality in what they disclose.
Okay, now that's very interesting. So if those who went through the program until 31st of December 2021, they got 100% waived of their penalties and interest.
In fact, as we speak, as of October, we had received about 17,000 applications.
Wow.
About 12,000 approved. And that means then the taxpayer disclosed we confirmed that they were not under any audit investigation, not party to an ongoing litigation, and
Right.
qualified for 100% waiver. So yes, those who first come, then they benefit better because they got the 100%.
Yes.
But again, we have 3 months to December 2022.
Right.
Yes, to get the 50% waiver.
So as we're getting into it, Linda, maybe kindly elaborate on the period that the volunteer, I know you touched on it in the beginning, maybe you can elaborate on the period that VTDP covers and where remission on penalties and interest is 50%, and also maybe the deadline. I know you've touched on it, so just so that it's clear to the taxpayers who may be watching and listening.
Okay. So the period that we're looking at is for tax that was not disclosed between 1st of July 2015 to 30th of June 2020. So it's a 5-year period for the taxpayer to come forth and disclose. And then they have been given a 3-year window period to take advantage of this program. So the period is 2021, 2022 comes to an end next year. So the
Right.
benefit of coming on board at this time, before we hit the end of this year, is the taxpayer qualify for 50% remission, which is quite substantial. And also the benefit of this VTDP is you can get into a payment plan arrangement with the commissioner. So that means if you don't have the money to pay now, you have disclosed, you can agree with the commissioner over a 12-month period
Right.
within which you can make payment. So it would be advisable for a taxpayer to come on board while that arrangement still exists.
Okay. Now, I think anybody who's watching and listening is on board with that. If they weren't already and they haven't taken advantage of it. Now, those who haven't and those that don't know, how should taxpayers apply for the Voluntary Tax Disclosure Program?
Good question, Alan. KRA has made this possible through the website. So taxpayers could go to the website and visit the iTax portal. So how we file our returns, the normal way, you go to your iTax portal, you log in, put your password,
Yes.
and then there's a tab, which is the returns tab on your iTax page.
Okay.
There's a drop down on the voluntary tax disclosure return. So once you get there, then if, for instance, you're disclosing income tax, you select income tax,
Yes.
select the undisclosed income that you had not disclosed to the commissioner, then the system in itself will work out, how much tax it is, confirm that, and submit it together with evidence. So there's also an avenue for you to attach the respective evidences to support your disclosure.
Right.
Submit it. Once we receive the application, then the officer will go through the database just to confirm that this is a tax that you had not disclosed earlier, and also that this is information that we also did not have, and we have not picked it up for audit or investigation. And once you are cleared, then you agree on the payment plan, if you're paying immediately or you're going to pay over an agreed period of time. So, yeah.
Okay, so this process is done through the iTax portal. Now, once they've done that, how can one pay for the Voluntary Tax Disclosure Program? How do taxpayers make payment?
So once the commissioner has looked at your application, because you have to apply first, you have
Right.
to be cleared first. Once it's cleared, then you go to the payments tab and you generate a payment return for the disclosure that you made, and you make payment. Once payment has been done completely and to the satisfaction of the commissioner that whatever you have disclosed has been paid, then you apply for the voluntary tax disclosure certificate, which is under the certificates tab. And then you get the certificate from the commissioner to certify that the undisclosed income has been received.
Wow. Okay, I think this is, of course, an amazing initiative by KRA, and I hope maybe we've shed more light on this, and we hope that more taxpayers will take advantage, especially of the 50% before 2022 is over. Thank you so much for joining us today on Tubonge Tax, Linda.
Thank you for having me, Alan. It is my prayer that the taxpayers will take advantage of this program this year, but they still have until 2023. Thank you.
Right. So Linda has said it better than I could have ever. Take advantage of the Voluntary Tax Disclosure Program by going to itax.kra.go.ke and make your application today. I have been your host, Alan Madoka, and this has been another Tubonge Tax. Until next time, goodbye.